I realized for a long time, majority of my life, I didn't control much. I just fell in line with somebody told me to do. You know, I always felt like I deserved more.
Cheers to you on your new journey as you transform.
This is your moment. This is your time. This is your liberation. Open your mind.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Liberashun. I'm your host, Dr. CI. Now, what we're going to be doing on this show is meeting with different people and hearing about stories of liberation from different professionals across a number of different industries. On this episode, we have Kalina. Kalina is going to talk to us about what is it like to gain your own freedom and to become a person who owns your own choices. With that being said, I want you to take the time to check out the episode, like and share, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to leave us some feedback in the comments about what kind of things you've been liberated from or different stories that might inspire our audience. Looking forward to hearing from y'all. Meet Kalina and check out our interview. What's up, everybody? I'm back in the building. I'm Dr. CI, and welcome to the Liberashun Podcast. So if you haven't seen the Liberashun Podcast before, what we do is a show about liberation. And shun is spelled S-H-U-N because what we like to emanate is that people have been shunned or shamed for something in their lives, and they're coming on our show to liberate themselves from that moment. Now, the goal of the show is we know that transformation is not going to immediately happen on the show, right? But what we do know is that this is the first stage or part of the process that perhaps a human being is going through as they reach a transformation and want to change something major in their lives. I'm honored today to have our guest, Kalina Marie, on the show. Welcome, Kalina. Welcome to Liberashun. Thank you for giving us your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. Yes, always honored, especially to have a brilliant, beautiful, powerful Black woman on our show. And we honor everyone, but I'm calling that out because as y'all can see, I'm a Black woman. So I love when we come on here and really have conversations. Now, if you've never seen Liberashun Podcast or heard about us, there's 5 stages that each guest will go through. The first is information, where they talk all about themselves, who they are, why they came on the show. The second is confrontation, where they really speak honestly about what it is that they're confronting on our show. After confrontation is manifestation, where they start to speak about the person that they want to become. And then transformation is when they speak to that person and become that person on screen. And then we celebrate the change that this human being is undergoing and the fact that they came on our show and were vulnerable with us. Now, with that being said, I'm going to create the space for Kalina to introduce herself and tell you exactly who she is and what brought her to the show. So Kalina, talk to us about who you are and what brought you to join us today.
All right. Well, here we go. So I'm Kanlina Marie Bryant. I go by Kalina Marie. I'm a tech leader. I'm a founder of Unapologetech, which is a podcast and a platform for women of color and underrepresented groups that are thriving or looking to get into the tech industry. How did I guess more about me? I see. I'm an African-American woman. I'm proud to say that, you know, especially in the tech industry, it was a struggle, honestly, being able to just come to be my own person and like accept what I cannot change. I went from undergrad straight into the tech industry. I tried to be really perfect, you know, growing up. I would say I was that person that tried to get perfect grades, you know, always trying to please my parents, make sure since they were sacrificing so much for me that what I could do in return is make sure that I was basically being perfect, getting everything I was supposed to get in order for them.
Okay.
And then, you know, behind the scenes, I was always trying to work hard to prove that I was smart. You know, for some reason, I felt like no matter how many great grades that I got, no matter how many jobs I got, for some reason, I always felt like I wasn't good enough. And so I started recently challenging that because I ended up looking around, you know, I had so many I wouldn't say it was insecurities, but there were some doubts, you know, like I've come into my own self of, I am a beautiful African-American woman, curves and all. I mean, all the way from my plump lips to my curves to the color of my skin, everything. I love it. But there was a time where, I didn't like that I was so curvy. I didn't like that I was a certain skin tone. There was so many things that I just didn't like. I used to just cry because my lips was too big. I'd cry because I had big ears. I'd cry because, my butt was too big. I'm like, why is it too big? So all the way from not feeling okay with, who I was. And then on top of that, even, I would get to a point where I can get like an A- on something and I would still be sad about that because it wasn't a solid A, like I realized it was dropping the GPA. And then I got into graduating and getting into tech. And then I thought, okay, if I could always be number one and get the job and, have a certain title at a certain age, then that would always put me on top. But after like really understanding this, and I think it didn't start happening to me until my dad actually passed in 2017. And then all of a sudden I realized, I was like, well, shit, who are you really trying to please? Like my mom never was a big person of trying to make me perfect. She just wanted me to like who I was. And then my dad was really like stern because he wanted me to be successful. So now you have the person that was always on you now gone. And so then I started really reflecting of, well, what are you going to do with your life? And it wasn't actually, I think it was like probably 2 or 3 days actually before he passed. I remember asking him, I was stressed about work. And I was like, well, what else should I do? Like I did this now, I got this promotion, like what else? And usually he was the person that kind of guided me. So he flat out froze and he was like, kid, I want you to live now. He's like, you've done everything I've asked you to do. And having that stated from him, there was never like a blank list, right? For him to say, you have done everything, like live. I didn't know how to, go run with that. And then he passed. So I was like, well, crap, he didn't even give me a list of stuff to accomplish, before he passed. And so like, that's when I got into the searching of, well, who is Kalina Marie going to be? Who am I living for? Originally, it was living to please my parents, and then it was making sure that I was always seen in the best light. But I never put myself in the actual equation. I was always putting everybody else and their expectations as to who Kalina Bryant or Kalina Marie Bryant should be. And it wasn't until 2017 where I actually did some soul searching. I upped and quit a bad job. It was a very toxic environment. I like called some friends, one of my best friends in Europe. She told me to come to Turkey. I took a one-way flight and quit my job with no plan B. And I just disappeared for like a month and was just like laying on the beach in Belgium, one day being happy, one day, having a crisis, being like, I left a job, I quit. What am I going to do? Like it was literally day by day. I was happy one minute, sad one day, anxiety one day. And then I just started writing down, well, if I got to be in this world and I got to live for myself, but what's going to actually please me? And so that's when I actually started self-reflecting and trying to outline who was I going to be in this world and what was I going to be content with?
That's so powerful. All the things that you said about your image and finding like joy and happiness and trying to just figure it out. I feel like the world right now is in an extreme shift where we see more and more people going through that phase, including myself. And so it really resonated with me because I think you touched on something without even saying it, especially imposter syndrome and being a Black woman in tech and even the space of covering who you are and thinking about our image and what does it look like to be curvy, to have big lips, to have all these beautiful features that we're not always taught are beautiful. And so I love the fact that you brought that up and you're speaking about what it's like to be that person. And I really think that experience within itself is really going to resonate with our audience because I want people to see and understand your journey, one as a Black woman and all the intersections that you have as you go through this process of saying, what does it mean to make me happy? And one of the things that I want to express to our audience is that often when we hear about happiness and joy, we can tend to come down on ourselves because we think we need to feel it all the time. And happiness is not a 24/7 thing, right? Like it's something that should be consistent and be the majority of your life. Like you should never be unhappy all the time. But, our emotions tend to shift. And I think that for me, I'm really trying to figure out how often should I be happy in my life? And what does it look like to experience joy consistently? And I'm finding more of that. But I think, and I'm really interested to hear your journey about how sometimes it requires sacrifice to open opportunities to get to that space. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about your journey of becoming this brilliant person who is in tech, is doing her own thing, is the CEO of her own life. When I read your intake form and you put CEO of your own life, I was like, ooh, say that shit. Yes, I am here for all of that. When you think about the things that you need to confront as we go into the space of really doing a confrontation for what are the barriers that you need to move out of your way in order to begin that process, or have you started to move out of your way to get to where you are now, and as you are continuing that journey? What's that like? What are you confronting?
A lot. Well, I mean, I guess one is just identifying, being the CEO of my life. At first I used to ask permission on shit that was like my life. It was strange, right? Like I was on this crunch time, it was just ridiculous. It was a timeline that I had made up in my head. I'm so serious. Like I was, I had to have all these things checked off by a certain age. It was just bullshit, to be honest with you. Not allowed to reflect on it. And I'm gonna list a few things. So like I was in a long-term relationship, at the time that my dad had passed too, and, was trying to basically be this perfect layout, right? Like I had the dream job, I had the dream relationship, long-term relationship. And then on top of that, like just basically checking off the boxes. If you looked at my resume and my whole portfolio of Kalina Bryant, it's like, ooh, she has it going on. But in reality, I realized that I was in a relationship that wasn't really fulfilling me. I was just in it, like trying to check off the list. And also, if we think of my fake timeline, I was in that relationship in a time where if I was to have gotten engaged at a certain time and got married at a certain time, it was what society would like. Like
Right.
it was perfect, like I was calculating it out of like, okay, 25, 26 here. Okay. Engagement around 27, 28. Okay. And then maybe we do the marriage around 29, 30, and then boom, I'll have like a kid maybe at 30, 31. It was so like outlines. Honestly, I was like a scientist when it came to like how things should be.
Yes.
But I never asked myself, was I even happy? I was starting to silence my own joy. I was silencing myself. I would see things I didn't like. I was doing things that I didn't like, all to portray that I had a perfect life.
Yeah.
So I got out of that relationship. And then I had to go through the grieving period of like that relationship too. And then I had this checklist that I was going to, buy all this real estate, So then all of a sudden I was supposed to be buying a lot of stuff in the Bay Area. So then I started thinking outside of the box. And all of a sudden now I'm in Long Beach right now. And then it was like this checklist of like, okay, Kalina, you're supposed to be maybe like engaged and then buy, a bigger property at this time. And then like, work at a certain company and have this type of title. And also, again, with the timeline and also with the bullshit of these titles, I think the longer you are in any industry, especially in tech, titles are bullshit. They really are. And I mean, I was trying to climb from manager to senior manager to head to director to VP, all this crap, right? And every time I would get a step forward, I realized that it was more politics, and it wasn't really fun, and I didn't really know what I was striving for when I actually got the title or got the promotion. Actually, one job in particular, my last company, I was head of customer marketing, and then all of a sudden I was up for this big promotion. And then when I got the promotion, it became director of customer marketing. And I was frustrated because I'm like, well, what the hell? What's the difference between head and director, And I was still building, I was still planning, had all this budget and stuff. And they was highlighting this as like a leadership role. You're basically like an executive cleanup, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't feel like that. I felt like I was still in this like line of not achieving something. I always felt like I deserved more. But then it reflected, like at one point I sat down, and this was right before I had designed Unapologetic. I realized that I was never going to be satisfied with a certain promotion or a certain title because I was never really in control of my life, at least my work career. I was just trying to fall in line and like have this beautiful resume and just keep achieving in their eyes. But deep down, I wasn't being as creative as I wanted to be. I wasn't defining what success was really looking like. To me, I was looking at what society or like tech said success was, and then I started being real with myself and looking at all these people that had certain roles, and they were actually confiding in me. Like these people that you would think, oh, that's who I want to be, they have more issues than anybody, like they're confining about how they hate their life. And I'm like, crap, you're trying to be the C level of whatever, and they're not even happy. So what are you actually searching for? So within all that, like I understood, okay, let's be real with my timeline. I don't even know if I want to be married, to be quite honest with you, because it comes with a sense of control. And that's something that I'm working out in myself of I don't want to be controlled. And if I was to get married, that is going to be my partner. It's going to be my equal. We're going to work together. Mm-hmm. And what I see right now in society, I just haven't found that. I feel like it's still a checkoff list for most women. And, I'm not going to do that anymore. And yes, do I want children? I definitely do, but I want to have them when I can provide them the life that I believe that they deserve. I'm a strong believer of every generation that comes into this world, you're supposed to give them more. So my parents gave me all they could. So now it's up to me to give my kids even more. So I'm still in building process. So I want to be mindful as to when I say I'm going to be a wonderful mom. And so that timeline is iffy. I don't know what that looks like. And then also, trying to climb this corporate ladder, inside tech, I've actually froze now. I now look at what can I bring to the table that's going to add on to my, I guess, portfolio. And I look at these tech companies as opportunities to do trial and error and to build something beautiful for them. But at the same time, everything that I'm learning there, I'm already a CEO at my own company. So I look at how to actually build beautiful programs and processes and bring in revenue, but then I take that same knowledge and I bring it back to my company. And so now I'm not actually looking for any title. I'm not searching for anything else. I feel I am CEO, like it's not, hey, next year, Kalina, you should be at this promotion or this and this and this. It's more like, hey, the dream that you have laid out, you can be here maybe next quarter or next year, but it's all about the dream. It has nothing to do with a certain amount of money. It has nothing to do with a certain title. It has to do with the dream that you're trying to fulfill for my life now. So within all of that, like I've scratched out these timelines, that was actually the most liberating thing I think I did, because I'm not going to lie, Cheryl, I would wake up stressed, being like, I'm behind. I'm so behind. And then it took my mom to be like, well, what are you behind in? She was just trying to understand. She's like, I just don't get it. Like, what are you behind in? And I had to sit down and be honest with myself and realize that I was just making this false timeline of achievements when in reality, I was already successful. I was already content. And recently I realized I was just really happy with Kalina Marie, like I wake up, I look at the programs that I'm gonna build for my current company. I look at what I'm gonna design for my company. I look at my podcast. I look at who I want to be around. I look at, I'm a single woman, but as my choice, like if I want to have a boyfriend on Wednesday, I have a boyfriend on Wednesday. But if I want to be single on Thursday, I'm a single woman on Thursday. And it's something that I can control, and it's like, I realized for a long time, majority of my life, I didn't control much. I just fell in line with somebody told me to do. And I was doing it because most of the people, of course, they wanted the best for me. So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't disappoint anybody. But what I realized, I was taking myself out of the entire equation all the time. And so now I'm the main person in the equation. Like I look at what's going to make me happy, because based on the people that are in my life, if I'm happy, then I'm a better person for everybody else around me. Like I have a different light with me. If I'm healthy, it's almost like the airplane thing. How they say you put your own seatbelt on first and then you can help somebody else. That's how I feel like when I'm healthy, when I have my mind right, when I'm secure in who I am, when I know where I'm going, then I'm a better asset to the people that I love around me. When I've sketched out my mind map, when I know my dreams and where I'm going and what I will not put up with, then I'm better, when it's time to go out for drinks, when it's time to go out to dinner or just hang out, like I'm a breath of fresh air to people. But it took all of this to go through, and it took the timelines to be moved out. It took expectations to be moved out. And it took me to actually sit down with myself and ask myself, what is going to please me? And what is good look like in my eyes, not society eyes, but my eyes. And once I actually outlined that, and remove dates and timelines, life has gotten a lot better. Like, don't get me wrong, every day is not happy, like every day is not roses and butterflies, but it's every day I'm looking forward to that day. Like, I wake up excited for that day because there's so many opportunities available, and it's opportunities that I've designed for myself.
Yes. And you said some things I want to touch on that are, I think, super relevant to the journey of especially underrepresented professionals, but Black female professionals, as it is relevant to us. And the first one is titles. I remember it resonated so much with me when you talked about wanting to be the director and the head and eventually being that executive suite, because that's something I used to do. And one of the moments that I had with myself that I still have to have with myself is about the fact that I wanted that title because it was I've never felt like anybody was going to give it to me. And I've been called so many bad things for so long that when it was a chance to receive something that had a positive light and responsibility behind it, I wanted that. And I think often we want that. It's like y'all have called us so many bad things for so often that when it's in my grasp to be something good and be something more that has meaning and power behind it, I want that. Right. And then you transitioned into the space of creating that title for yourself. Like, I didn't become a CEO till I created my own business, because I had to realize that the opportunities that I was really fighting in other people's companies to become that, I was losing myself. And when you said that, my toes twinkled. I was like, oh, hell yeah, preach, Kalina. Because I want people to understand that. I want people who watch this podcast to understand that it's okay to want those things, but don't lose yourself in it. And don't forget about the opportunities to be able to create that lane for yourself. Because if you are underrepresented, you are underestimated, you are more likely to be overlooked. Mm-hmm. And so be mindful of what it is that you're striving for and making sure that you don't assimilate or lose yourself as you go for it. So I really, really, really love that you said that. And then when you talked about control, the timeline, that shit hit me in the heart, Kalina, because I'm like, I wake up some days sad, right? I've had to navigate waking up sad because I'm like, gosh, I had a birthday last month. And I was like, I'm 40 now. I'm single with no children. And I felt the moment of shame because I was like, what am I doing wrong? But then I said to myself, I don't want to be married. I don't think I want marriage. I don't think I want children. I was like, is it okay that I feel that way? Because everybody else I've grown up around has certain expectations of me in that way. Like, I was talking to my best friend. I was like, I'm polyamorous. I, will be in multiple relationships and I'm happy there. I've been happy there. And I'm saying I'm single, but I'm in multiple relationships, but open, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And my friend was like, well, that's good until you find the right person that really makes you happy. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I looked at her and I said, but why do I have to have that? Because you have it. Mm-hmm. My friend is married with children. I was like, what if that's not what makes me happy? Like, am I just doing that because I'm supposed to? And I think that for anybody watching this show, I'm not knocking marriage. I believe that you could find the one person for you and build a family with them and love them. But for those of you who haven't yet and don't know if you want that, it's okay to not know. And so liberate yourselves from this space of feeling like you have to confine to certain expectations that were built in a society that wasn't thinking about you when they created those rules. So when you talked about that, and then you said like taking yourself out of the equation and falling in line, I was like, like it really is. There's something to be said when you go on a trajectory that meets other people's expectations, you lose you. And to rediscover who you are and come back to who you originally have been that was taken away from you is a hard fucking journey. Mm-hmm. And so I really want people to understand that don't take that journey lightly and grant yourself some grace, because to figure out who you are and what's within you, one, it might have been taken from you, which created trauma for you. And now you got to navigate that trauma to come back to it, but also to understand that you may not have ever reached that, because every institution that you've encompassed in your life has prescribed a lifestyle for you that they expect you to meet.
Mhm.
you know? And so be mindful of who it is that you feel that you are. And if that conflicts with who you are supposed to be, there's a change that needs to happen. So I really, really love that you said that. In
Yeah.
essence of change, let's go to manifestation.
Hmm.
So as you are manifesting this person that you want to become, give us some key insights for what that journey has been like for you.
I mean, it's been nice, to be honest with you. Originally, when I was going through the whole like trying to do the director and senior director titles, etc., um, I really manifested that I just wanted to be in control, like be my own creative person and be able to sketch these ideas and not get so many different approvals, but really just wake up and have this idea, sketch it out on the board, and then execute.
Mm,
Um, and that was something that I was manifesting actually last year. And then Unapologetic came up. And I just started outlining all the things that I wish I could do. I wish that I could bring more people of color, especially women, especially African American women, together and allow us to have some real talk. And I didn't know how I was going to connect these people. Hell, I didn't even know if they would be willing to tell their journey to me. But I was just manifesting, like, I just want a better community. Like, I was thinking, hey, women unfortunately are sometimes your biggest enemies because they're at competition all the time. But I just always thought that if I could give a safe space for women to actually be able to amplify their voices and actually tell their story, then we would break those barriers and actually develop a real community.
mm,
And, before you know it, I was just dreaming of, I want a platform, like I'm gonna do something. Next thing you know, the podcast came about and all these resources start coming up to where I would be talking to people saying, well, I think I kind of want to do this. And before you knew it, I had designers, I had a web person that was like, oh, Clint, I can do this for you. I had, people that would reach out to their friends. And like my first 3 podcast episodes were connections of other people that pitched the idea and they were more than happy to participate. And so what started off with just an idea of I just want creative freedom turned into an actual platform. And then from the platform, I was like, well, it's just a podcast. Like I'm just a host. I was like, I sort of want to, design a business. I was like, I don't know how to do it. My mom, she ended up buying me all these books for Christmas. It was the best gift ever. Actually, she brought me like 3 business planning books, and I sat and I just read each one of them, and I just kept telling myself, I want to have a business. Like I want mentorship and I want to actually design something concrete. And within a few months, I actually had talked to you about this, Cheryl. I was like, I don't know if I should do like an LLC or a corp or what. And then, you started telling me about all these different things to research as well. And before you know it, I had a lawyer, I had an LLC, I had a trademark name, and it was just like the universe was just on my side. And like one day I was just like, I sort of want this. And I'm like, well, shoot, now I'm like the owner, you know? And so to be honest with you, it started off with just manifesting creative freedom and what that actually means. And I'm gonna be clear what creative freedom is. When you're working for a company, when you're getting a W-2,
mm-hmm.
no matter even if you're the CEO, there's a board that still owns you. They can vote you out, so you are technically you're not the boss, and you still have to pitch these ideas. And even though it is a wonderful idea, someone can turn it down. And what I wanted for myself was, no matter how crazy the idea was, I was like, I want to talk about like bias statements and microaggressions and horrible experiences that you have, had in your life as a woman in tech. Like, I want you to tell it all.
Yeah.
Tech companies wasn't going to let me do that. They're like, no, Kalina, that's too raw. And before you know it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have the creative freedom, and I'm gonna be the editor of the discussion doc. I'm gonna be the editor of what goes out, and I'm gonna show it to my speakers. But I'm gonna make sure that they know what they're getting themselves into before they say yes. And so with that creative freedom, I didn't have a VP or a C-level whatever to read my idea and sit on it for a few weeks and mark it up and say, well, don't say this word or don't do this, or actually, Kalina, that's a little bit bizarre. I literally wrote it down and it was up to me to execute it. I literally said, well, this is what I'm gonna do, and let me find actual people and then let me actually produce it. And that was the liberating of my journey, to be honest with you. Like, I wake up asking myself, well, how creative can I be? And that helps me actually with my day job too, because there's certain things that I won't be able to control ever when having a W-2. And
Right.
so at nighttime, when I shut the laptop off of my W-2 job, I turn around and everything that might have frustrated me that I wasn't able to push through with the W-2 job, I just outline what I can control as the owner and CEO of my company. And it helps me sleep better at night. You know, it helps me feel confident. It helps me feel like I have a purpose on this earth. You know, like recently I was thinking, I don't know when I started thinking about it, but I was telling myself, like, you know, when musicians pass away, they have their music that lasts forever. Like people still, you think about Tupac, people still remember Tupac. It's like he was still here. But then I started asking myself, no matter how many tech companies I go to, or just any company in general, if something was to happen to me, nobody's going to remember my program. Nobody, you know, I'm just going to get replaced. They're going to put my job up the next day and it's going to be fulfilled by somebody else. But I realized with my podcast, with my platform, with the coaching, the training, all of those things that I'm providing to myself, the next generation, you know, I'm a millennial, but there's Gen Zs coming up saying, well, what do I do to make it, you know? Yep. And then there's also, you know, Gen X's that are, you know, right above the millennials that are still asking like, well, how do I actually find how to maneuver this world, especially if they have children and they take a break and they go back into the industry, all this stuff. And I realized if I ever quit or like whenever I shut my eyes, I have left a mark on people, not just one person, but people all over the world that have been able to navigate the industry and they've been able to find their voice and use it and cultivate it and actually find peace within their career and themselves.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you is like speaking to my soul right now. And I want people to understand that manifestation is believe, work, and receive, right? Like speak it into, first believe it, speak it into existence, work towards it, receive it, right? Because that's how the universe is listening to you. And so like for you, your manifestation is like, I am the CEO of my own life choices. Like I want to be able to own that. And so I love like what you wrote even here in the manifestation. I'm going to repeat some of the things that you wrote because I think they're so powerful. You said, I choose to make my own choices. I set my own timelines. I dream freely and execute those dreams. I'm no longer frustrated on people's expectations. I want that to go across the screen so people can see it and repeat it. Y'all manifest that like Kalina is manifesting and making that happen in her life. And then another one is you said, I realize you make your own path and people's opinions don't matter. Majority of the time, negative opinions are just haters, right? And that's exactly what they are. It's like, you know, people will look up to you for the things that you're doing and then blame you for the crook in their necks. Like you did
Definitely
because you were successful. And it's
definitely.
Like, I'm manifesting this, I'm working towards this and I deserve it. Mm-hmm. Right. I think when I first started learning about manifestation, one of the first recordings that came to me was by Ray Lewis. And in his affirmations, he said something that I had never heard or spoke, I should say, which is, I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be successful. And I was like, I do deserve that. I was like, my ancestors worked for that. My mother worked for that. My family worked for that. Who am I to not take the freedom that they've worked so hard for me to have and make something with it? But understand, like you put here, freedom is not cheap. Mm-hmm. And cheap is not just a materialistic concept. It's something that talks about sacrifice and what it is that you have to give up in order to live in your truth and your authenticity. And I think that's a journey that many of us go on. And for generations that come after us, it's like, I think the thing that I ask myself, and I want to know how you feel about it, is how do I make it easier for them, especially if they look like me? And it's a hell of an inherited responsibility, while also trying to maintain sanity. And sometimes I think sanity is overrated. Some of my best moments come when I'm going fucking insane, or I should say I'm having wild thoughts, right? What's that like for you?
Well, I mean, I think you're spot on, right? Like usually when I'm spiraling out, that's when I'm onto something, you know, like when I can't sleep at night, when I have like, and it's different when you have negative anxiety, then you have positive anxiety, you know, like I learned that when I have something going, I don't need an alarm clock. I wake up by myself.
Yeah.
And versus when I really don't want to do something, or I'm just doing something because I'm supposed to be doing it. It seemed like the snooze just always going on snooze. But I think about this a lot, actually, and I said for a fact that freedom wasn't cheap, for the simple fact you can have a lot of money, or you can have little money. And I mean, I feel like sometimes when you have little money, you're actually more free because you are creative. You're trying to make it work. And I realize if you don't know how to define you, or like what you're going to put up with and what you're going to accept, you can be a billionaire tomorrow and you still won't be happy. You still won't be free because someone else is already, like, they've been controlling you and they're still going to control you. But if you know how to operate on any means, financially, of what that is, and you know how to satisfy yourself, and you know how to be content with who you are, I mean, that's the best. That's like the best gift that I think you can give yourself, And then one reason why I had highlighted like the opinions of people plus like the freedom is because at some point when you have freedom of who you are and you really are the CEO of your life, when people are telling you that you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that, I mean, I can list all the stuff that people told me that I shouldn't do, regardless if it was me quitting jobs or if I walk away from relationships, and I kid you not, within a year or so, those people are the ones liking my posts, hearting all my stuff, saying, I believed in you. And it's like, you didn't believe. You were the one telling me how horrible my idea was,
Yeah.
And even with the podcast, I had people telling me at one point, oh, it's an okay idea, Kalina. We don't know where you're going to go with that. And now those are the people saying, oh, Kalina, I would really love to be on your podcast. I'm like, really? The little thing that wasn't going to work last year that you said wasn't going to work?
Right.
And it's like, it's stressful, right? Because what I realized, and that's the same thing with manifestation, it's a muscle. Like just because you say you are going to do something, you can't say it on Monday and then never say it again. You can't expect, that's something like you have to be repetitive, similar to like your prayers, like every night or every day, whatever your spirituality is, you need to be consistent in saying what you want. And that's the same thing with opinions. Like if you already know that person opinion or that person makes you feel a certain type of way, control yourself. Don't go hanging out with them. Don't go listening to them, and that's something that I still work on this on a regular basis, because you do get a little caught up sometimes in your own thought process. And what I had to learn is, most people give opinions when they're trying to figure out what's in it for them, and I've had to learn, the more successful I get, or maybe it's not even success, but the more confident that I get in who I am, I have more people that want to be around me. And the things that are working for me, but I realize the things that are really working for me, people want to have little opinions. And so I stop it ahead of time before my mind starts racing. I just say, oh, that's cool. Thank you. But I got that, or if they say, oh, I noticed, I listened to that. I think you should, thank you so much. I got that. I don't need you to comment on that, or even colors or photos and stuff that I take, or, man, did you ever think? Nope, I didn't think about that. I thought about that last week, or I'm gonna think about that next week without you. I don't need you to comment on it. And then I have certain people that I genuinely respect their opinions because they were with me when I was at rock bottom. They were with me when I didn't know if I wanted to really wake up the next day. Like those people, I genuinely ask, am I going in the right direction? I look at my mother, for example. She's my advisor, like straight up advisor, but she's also the person that was there when I was really struggling. And so I look at the sense of, what is freedom when I'm being consistent of what I'm pushing out into the world, what I stand for, like that is like the biggest thing that I think you need to analyze before you go off and being creative. What do you actually stand for? Because if you don't stand for something, somebody's going to tell you what you should stand for. And then you're just going to be all stressed out because you're trying to fulfill somebody else's expectations. And then once you know what you stand for, then you can strive to be free. Because you know what actually makes you happy, you know what you stand for, and therefore you know what freedom looks like. And then when that happens, then you start to know what opinions you're going to accept and what people you're going to have around you. And I think it's very true of, be careful who you do surround yourself with, because you will become that. Like if you are around money hungry people that don't genuinely know what to do with the money, unfortunately, you will fall into that, and if you're around people that are always just wanting and taking, you will become that. But if you're around like fulfilling people that know who they are, what they stand for, like they manifest stuff, they teach you to manifest, and all of a sudden you start manifesting. If they are spiritual, telling you that you can always do it, then all of a sudden you reciprocate that, and then you become that positive person. So, be mindful of who you surround yourself with, and be mindful of the opinions and the, things that you let in. Because if you let negativity in, you're just creating this like box of worms. But if you let positive stuff, if you let in, positive affirmations, positive advice, then all of a sudden you can take that information, but also give it to somebody else.
Yes. And I want people also to note that when you are manifesting, you have to speak about something as if it's already happening, right? You make it your reality, because remember, perception is reality for us. So what you perceive, what you believe, you perceive, and what you perceive is your reality. And so speak about it as if you are already in it so that you can become it, because you remember, you have to believe it. Mm-hmm. Now we're getting close to the end of the show. Our second to last stage, which is liberation. In your form, I asked you, what is it that you want to, who is it that you want to become? And what is it that you want to say to that person as you are becoming that person? Take the time right now to transform and say what it is that you want to say to the person that you are becoming and continue to want to develop into. What is it that you want to say to her?
Well, hold on, let me take my hair down for this one.
Yes, take it down.
All right.
Take it too, so I can have our what you call slow-mo it.
let's rock this thing out.
Yes.
And let me take the glasses off because it's been a long day.
Yes, it has.
I've been doing reflecting on this, and honestly, I just want to be a blessing to everybody, and I want to make sure that the person that I was struggling with a few years ago, with the insecurities, the lack of confidence, and the aspirations to be perfect, I have officially let all that go, and I want to continue to be this inspirational CEO of who I am, and making sure that I continue to be authentic. I continue to be real to myself, and also the people that follow me, the people that look up to me. And I really officially want to be that life coach that ultimately, if you look like me, if you're a woman, I don't want to see women struggle, and I don't want to see women confined into a life that they didn't actually sign up for, but society signed them up for it. I want to continue to be my authentic self, and I want to liberate ever listening to the opinions before. I want to liberate ever having these fake timelines. And I want to liberate just letting go of unrealistic expectations that weren't even expectations of myself. And going forward, I just want to make sure that I'm content with who I am, and I wake up being honest and authentic, and being a breath of fresh air to somebody else because of what I've learned.
Okay, now we're going to try that one more time. And I want you to take out want and speak to yourself as if you are that thing. So in your transformation, you say, I am this. I am becoming this. No more wants.
Okay.
Talk to you like you are the person you are transforming into.
Okay. So, let's do this. So, Cheryl, officially now, I am the CEO of Unapologetech.
Mm-hmm.
I am, a founder. I am a life coach for women, for underrepresented groups. I am authentically myself, and I am a blessing to everyone that comes in my presence because I'm honest. I give critical feedback, but I also have everyone's best interests because now I'm happy with me.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Is there anything else?
Stop following society, I just want to drop that in there because honestly, I was pretty unhappy, I would think, probably like a few years ago, because I had these fake expectations because America puts this expectation for women. you know, I was silent, because hey, as a woman, don't talk so much, but also as a Black woman, don't come off aggressive. Don't highlight things that don't make you happy, or like, don't be so aggressive. That was our title all the time. Like you talk too much, or nothing's ever right, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, hell, if I was a man, like, you would love that I always have something to say, and like, if I was a white man, you would think I was the most brilliant person in the world because of all the stuff that I have to say. And so going forward now, I'm going to say what I want to say, especially because I'm in my head a lot. And so I have filtered it several times. So when I finally do say something, it means something. And if I have been sleeping on it for a few days, it's a red flag. It's like, hey, we really need to fix this, or we need to do something. It's a valid statement that I have to say that is not effective to me, but it's effective to all if I'm bringing it up. And so just going forward, honestly, screw America's expectations for women. Like, it is not realistic at 25 to be married when you don't even know. Like, for me personally, I didn't even know what was making me happy. So how I'm gonna pick a man that I think is gonna make me happy for the rest of my life when at 25, I don't even know what I like. Mm-hmm. And also children, like, I think that it's beautiful to have children, but don't expect a 25-year-old or 26-year-old, 27-year-old to have children and be a wonderful mom when you haven't even realized what makes you happy. You, as a parent, you need to be selfless. So how can you be selfless if you haven't actually given yourself everything that you want? And so in society, I think that these timelines is just bullshit. And I think that it sets you up for failure. It sets you up for depression, and it just sets you up to not be happy. And then you have to do all the work long-term because finally it hits you that you didn't want all that. You just fell in line with what somebody else wanted you to do. And so, like, this is my conclusion of stop falling in line, and live for you, because at the end of the day, you have to make you happy. It's not anyone else's duty to make you happy. It is your duty to make yourself happy. So create your own line, create your own journey, and go after it. So at least, even if things don't work out, you can sit there and say, well, I chose that.
That's right.
Like, I did that. I can't blame anybody else but myself. Compared to if you fall in line, then you start blaming people. You start saying, well, I wouldn't have did that if X, Y, and Z didn't make me do that. But if you actually wake up and you live for who you want to be, then, life is okay. Like, I don't make the right choices all the time, but I can now reflect on, well, where did I go wrong? Because I came up with that choice. Like, I chose to do it, and I don't sit there with a pity party anymore because I sat down with it, and I become smarter or more strategic because now I'm analyzing, okay, you were thinking that way, maybe let's change it up this way. And it honestly just makes me a more confident and like strategic person. It makes me a really good CEO because I own my choices. I own my failures. I own my wins too, and I think that that's the best way to go, especially for, a woman, especially a woman of color living in this world. Like, we don't have the ability to control a lot of things. And I think that that's really effed up. So start taking control.
That's right. That's right. I love it. That's a great way to end our segment as we go into our celebration. Now, this is the moment where we celebrate you in any way that you want us to celebrate you. So what's going to be your form of celebration?
It is almost 5:00. So we're going to pour a cocktail.
All right, I'm going to get mine. You go get yours with me back here. And the audience, y'all get y'all's so y'all can celebrate with us.
Yes. All right. Fresh glass of red wine.
All right, y'all. I got soda water. So
how you going to do me like that?
I drink occasionally, y'all. Just so you know, I do drink occasionally. I just don't have no champagne in my house.
I didn't have no champagne. That's why we had to do the red wine.
Oh, I could have just grabbed some wine, huh? Damn it. Next time. All right. But y'all take a cheers with us. Drink whatever you want. It could be water. It could be whatever. But cheers to you on your new journey as you transform into this beautiful, brilliant, powerful person that you are that is evolving.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. Now, I love to create a space for self-advertisement. Tell our audience where they can find you. How do they support Unapologetech? Talk to us.
Yes. All right. So we got Unapologetech Instagram. We got the website, unapologetic.com. And we also have Twitter at Unapologetic. Also, if you want to share your story, if you are a woman of color that's kicking butt inside corporate America and you want to tell your story, fill out that form on unapologetic.com and I will be in touch.
All right. We will see y'all soon. Thank y'all for joining the Liberation Podcast. And stay tuned because we got more episodes and more transformations coming your way and liberations coming your way. Y'all have a blessed day.
This is your